In this tutorial we're going to look at digitizing data within ArcMap. As we've mostly worked with pre-made data that I've provided, you haven't really got an experience of how to add in your own data. So we're going to look at two different ways of doing this. The first way is that we're actually going to add data directly into ArcMap using what's known as the editor toolbar. And the second way is that we're going to digitize point data, or coordinates, from an Excel file that I've also created, but I'll take you through some of the working that we might need to do in order to make that visualized in ArcMap. So the first thing we're going to do is download two data sets. First one is world-based map data, it's 23 megabyte download. We download that from the website, and a CV data set, a 20 kilobyte download. I'm going to copy these files into a new location. Remember, good practice is to put it somewhere where we know and where we can find it. Remember, try to avoid putting spaces in the file name. Now you see the CV data comes with 3 files. And we'll come back to this shortly. The world-based map data has got countries and cities in it. We'll just copy these into my known location. Okay, so we go to ArcMap. So the first exercise is that we're going to create our own data directly on the map. So the first thing, always good, is to set our coordinate system. You can see unknown units down here on the coordinate readout. So I'm just going to right click on the data frame, properties. I'm going to set my display to ArcGIS 1984 geographic, because we're going to be working with coordinates here. So you see the display changes to decimal degrees. So first step, using catalog, I'm going to connect to my folder. I'm going to add in my world-based map countries. I'm also going to add in my city file. Just rearrange the order so we can see them, okay? I don't really need the cities right now. I'm just going to use the base map to give it some context. So the step that we're going to take next is how to create a shapefile. So as you know from previous sessions, what you see here is a shapefile that contains vector data, points, lines or polygons. So we're going to create a new shapefile and we're going to populate this with data. And we're going to take a little exercise of finding locations around the map where we've either lived or where we've been on holiday. So if you follow me through, I'll take you through the whole process of making a shapefile, adding data into it, and then visualizing it at the end. Okay? So creating a shapefile is relatively simple. We're going to use our catalog. I'm going to navigate to a folder where you know where the data will be. And all I'm going to do is right click, new shapefile. You can see there's lots of options of things that you might wish to create. For this one, we're looking at shapefile. We select it. It gives us the create new shapefile dialog. Okay, at first glance it looks like it's asking for quite a lot. It's not really. What we're going to do is give our new shapefile a name. I'm going to call this places underscore bean. Okay, simple name. I'm not putting a file extension onto that because ArcMap will put that on for us. The feature type can be any of these. 99% of the time we're going to use a point, a line or a polygon. For this exercise we're using point. So the spatial reference is currently unset, so we want to set it to geographic world ArcGIS 1984. Now if we left that unset, it was still unknown, and then we edit it within the map document, that data frame has got the ArcGIS 1984 coordinate system set, so the data would be in that coordinate system. So if you later did a defined projection and told the computer that that shapefile was something different, it would not display correctly. It's always good practice to set it right now so that you've got this already set. Click OK. You can see here in Catalogue we've got places been, and the file has been added automatically to our desktop. If I just zoom to the layer of this, you can see it's got no data in. If we just open the attribute table, it's empty. There's no word appearing here. 0 out of 0 selected. So it's an empty shapefile ready for us to start adding data in. So the first step, the very first thing that we're going to do after we've created our shapefile, is we're going to edit the columns of data that we wish to have in our shapefile. What we want to avoid is adding data onto the map, adding a point on, and then going back retrospectively and having to work our way through adding in the delineation, whether we've lived there, whether we've been on holiday. What we want to do is make sure we know exactly what data we need right now from this point onwards. So I'm going to go into the attribute table, right click on the layer name, which places been, open attribute table, and we're going to add a column in here now. We do this by clicking the small black arrow by the side in the table, attribute table window, add field. It asks us for a name, which I'm going to call location type, or lock type. The add field for the name can be less than 10 characters, no more than 10 characters, okay? Any more than it doesn't fit the kind of file, the DBF file, that ArcMap is saving the tabular data into. Then asks you for a type. Short integer is just whole numbers, long integer, whole numbers, float and double, decimal points, and text. For this one we want text. If you find you can't add data in, and you're typing it in and it's saying, oh, this is not allowed, it's likely you haven't changed the type. I'm just going to change the length to 10 characters because we don't need anything else, and click OK. And you see here we have a new field created. In my worksheet, I show you the different types and how to work with it with respect to some of the precision and so on. Precision, scale, which are two words that you'll find if you try and add a float or a double. And precision is essentially the numbers, the amount of numbers that you have in total. Whereas the scale is the numbers after the decimal point. So if you have a precision of 6 and a scale of 4, you'll have 2 numbers before the decimal point, and then you'll have 4 numbers after. So you can set that within this particular thing. It means that you can set the size of the field relative to how much space it's going to take up. So fairly simple in the end. So we've now created our schema. I'm going to just move my attribute table to the side. I want to keep it open because I'm going to add my data as I work iteratively through the points that I'm going to add. So now we're ready to start adding data in, and we're going to use the editor toolbar, particularly by just clicking this little button here. To load up this bar editor, you see that it's all grayed out. That's because we're not active just yet. So all we need to do is just drop down, start editing. Okay? Hit start editing. You see we get a small warning here saying spatial reference does not match data frame of word cities. We're not too interested in that, that's fine. It won't stop us from editing it if we wanted to, but we're mostly focused here on adding points onto the places been layer. So click continue. You see now that we've got some tools come alive. The bar is mostly alive. We haven't added any data yet, so it's going to be still fairly inactive. What we want to do is we want to create a feature. So we're going to use this little box here, which has got a little pad and a little pen, create features. Bring this up, it brings up a window on the side. These are the things that we can edit right now. So we can create polygons in the world base map layer, or we can create points within the construction tools at the bottom. If we click a point, you see that my cursor has changed, and you can see I'm dragging a small point along. It's snapping quite strongly. So all we're going to do is just zoom in. I'm going to zoom in using my magnifying glass to the UK. And I'm just going to work on the UK for myself. Nice and quick. Go back to create features, point. And then say we select Menai Bridge. We select somewhere in Scotland. We select somewhere in the middle of England. We select somewhere down south. And somewhere over here. Now I've got 5 points that I've added in. Okay, so the first point, you can click on the side here. We've got this is Bangor, and this is where I've lived. If I click the next point by clicking on the side here, Scotland, that's where I've lived. Next point, that's where I've lived. Next point, down here, I've been on holiday. Next point over there, holiday again. So you know how I've used the same tag here. So try to keep it all exactly the same, capitalization spelling for each one of the tags that you're going to use. So that will facilitate our use in terms of a visualization at a later date. So I'm just going to move down, we'll go to France, point there. And you see there's different ways of adding in points. Now I'm just going to turn on the cities because I want to try and find some particular location. And now to query the cities layer, I'm going to use the identify tool here, this little blue icon. And click the city. Granada, not that one. That one. Faro, there we go, in Portugal. So I'm going to add a new point, create features again. Point. I just add my point in, holiday. Okay, so turn off road cities, there we go. Zoom back out. So I've added in my points onto my view. The next thing to do is to save them. Right now, they are not saved. If you were to exit ArcMap, your points have not been saved into your shapefile. It's vitally important that after every time you edit something, editor, stop editing. So you go editor, save edits first, editor, stop editing. And that's saved. You can go editor, stop editing, and it will ask you if you wish to save. Of course, you want to click yes. So there you go. That's how you add data in to ArcMap. So what we're going to do next is 2 quick exercises just to develop what the lines and the polygons look like. So I ask you to, using a polyline shapefile that you've created, just draw a couple of large rivers running through a country of your choice. Second, using a polygon tool, add a new island or landmass into an open area version. And then finally, using your plated bean layer, if you recall the symbology and visualization session, I want you to change the colours of your points to reflect where you've lived and where you've been on holiday. So I'll take you through those in a few moments. So if you want to have a go yourself before you follow me, click pause now. Okay, right, so it's reasonably simple as how we're going to deal with these particular tasks. The first thing is I'm just going to create a new layer. So shapefile, this will be landmass and polygon. Remembering to set the coordinate system to what I want it to be just 1984. Click OK. I'm also going to add in a new shapefile called rivers. To set as my rivers, this time polyline, and again I'm just going to set my geographic world GBGS 1984 coordinate system. Click OK. My 2 layers have been added into the display. I'm just going to move them up so I know where they are. Editor, start editing will allow us to start creating features. And if we click our bar here, we've got landmass and rivers now. So rivers is the first one. I'm going to select a line. I'm just going to work my way through. This is ours. I've added my first line in. I'm also now going to go to landmass. I'm just going to create a landmass within the North Atlantic. So you can make it as fancy as you wish. You can also use different tools. Maybe freehand tool. You know, this is draw some shape, which is a bit more complicated. Sometimes you have to wait slightly for something to draw. In an occasion like this, where you get ArcMap not responding, You've got a choice of waiting for a few moments, hopefully it will be able to repair the issue and continue running. If not, then we may need to rebuild it and restart. So there we go, it's managed to save it. So we've finished there. Just click stop editing, and there you see the save dialog. Yes, of course we wish to save our edit. So there we go, it's our 2 tasks completed, adding a landmass and adding a river. We can of course change the symbology as we wish. So the next step is to change our colours of our points to reflect where we've been on holiday. So if you remember how we did that, right click and place bean layer name, properties, symbology, categories, value field will be lock type, add all values, and here we've got holiday and live. If you misspelled live, for example, you'd have lived and then you misspelled one as well. I'm just going to right click here, change properties for all symbols. I'm just going to increase the size to 10 just to make it so that I can actually see these points on my visualization. If I zoom out slightly, you'll be able to see farther down at the bottom there. So that completes that particular exercise of how to achieve those 2 objectives. So you can feel free to file, save as, save your ArcMap document so you can come back to it in future. I'm just going to create a new one, and we're going to move on to the next exercise, which is to visualize the seaweed dataset in ArcMap. So in Excel, I'm just going to load up the seaweed data Excel file. Now you see that I also provided 2 text files for those of you who do not have Excel. So this sheet, data as provided, is what the student provided me with. We've got genus and species names. But we've also got a latitude and longitude column, which comprises both lat and both long in the same column, with some text elements. What is the problem here is that Arc will not be able to draw those particular points, because it won't understand what the numbers mean. So we need to do a little bit of manipulation of our data in order to fix this. So it's quite quick actually, because if you look at how this is organized, we've got spaces. That will allow us to separate out at least most of the particular numbers. So we're just going to select our column, data, and we're going to use the text to column tool, which will allow us to separate out the spaces. I'm going to use delimited space. You can see here we've got spaces now, and it's separated out these particular things, and just click finish. You see that some were inconsistently put into the data set, so some have not worked. You have to fix these manually. And you also see that we've got degree symbols coming here and there. A quick way to do this is to copy it, copy the degree symbol, and then we're just going to go home, find and replace, put that in there, leave that blank and click replace all. Okay, and it will 211 replacements done, and it's replaced them. Do the same for this symbol here, and so on. So you're just going to work your way through replacing all these until all of your numbers are correctly represented as numbers, i.e. they've moved on to the left, and that's got a text feature in it. So if I remove that text feature, again, the text then moved over to the left, indicating that it's now a number in Excel. So you work your way through that, you do all of those, get it all nice and neat. If I scroll down, you see that we've got some that were incorrectly inputted into the data set, so you'd have to work your way through them. But if you go to this one here, you see that I've fixed this for you. Okay, so we've got all of the numbers have been extracted out. They're in degrees, minutes and seconds. Right now we cannot show that in ArcGIS. What we want to do is convert it into decimal degrees of latitude and decimal degrees of longitude. And I've just created a very simple function. I'm just taking the degrees, I'm adding that to the minutes, which have been divided by 60. I'm adding that to the number of seconds, which have been divided by 3,600. And I'm multiplying it by -1 or 1, depending on whether it's north or south. That's all I'm doing. And I'm doing the same, almost exactly, for the the longitude, except I'm replacing south with east, and that's it. And then these two columns we can input into ArcMap. So once you've done that, what you need to do is save this particular sheet as a CSV file, because ArcMap doesn't tend to play terribly well with an Excel file, as I'll try and demonstrate shortly. I'll just close that down. So I've now got my seaweeddata.csv. Of course, if you just wish to have a go without converting your numbers, you can just use the as prepared document. But all the calculations are in a seaweed data Excel file, so you can see how it works and copy it over and play with it and so on. So I'm going to add in now my seaweed data file after I've created a bit of a reference. Decimal degrees, just double check to make sure my coordinate system is set correctly. And then I'm going to add in my seaweeddata.csv. I'm just going to drag that into the side over here. And you see that immediately my table of contents has changed from list by drawing order to list by source. So I can change it back. See, we don't see the table. By source, we see the table. So that sometimes if you don't see the table, you need to make sure you change your view. So we now have seaweeddata.csv being linked into the display. If I click open, it shows us some data. Doesn't look like it's drawn correctly. There's a problem here with my file. What we want to see is rows of data going down. So there's an issue with our particular file. We need to try and figure out why that's happened. So if we look at all this, it's all looked correctly. I think it's something to do with this column here, because we've got some strange numbers appearing within it. So I'm just going to remove that column. And then save the file. We'll try the import again. And there we go. So we do have some issues on occasion that you might need to try and fix if you have a bit of an issue. Okay? So, displaying this data is relatively simple. All we're going to do is right click on the table and display XY data. It'll ask us a few questions. We've got X field. What we want is decimal degrees longitude. Y field, decimal degrees latitude. Our coordinate system has been automatically set for us. GCS should be GS904, which is correct. However, we may need to change that. If you do, you can do that by clicking the edit button. And then we click OK. We get a warning saying that the table does not have an objective ID field, which means that we will be able to select or query the data, but we're just interested in visualizing it. Click OK. And here we go. We can see the data plotted around our map. We change the symbology. We can see where our species records are. And there you go. It's as simple as that. Displaying data that you may have collected from literature sources on a map and creating a visualization that people can look at. You may wish to change the coloration of certain layers and so on to increase the visibility in future. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it.